Good day, everyone. I am Mom Shermen Fajelago-Sadiwa, and I will be reporting to you about total physical response. A new learner finds it extremely difficult to understand and respond in a foreign language. This is because the teacher is only speaking in the foreign language that the learner hasn't mastered yet. For a young learner just starting to learn a language, here is a method to easily acquire the second language. So by this time, we'll talk about what is all about total physical response. But first, we will discuss the background of TPR. It was created by Dr. James J. Asher, a professor of psychology at San Jose State University in California. This method is based on the way that the children learn their mother tongue. Usually, parents have language-buddy conversations with their children. The parent instructs and the child physically responds to this. The parent says, "Look at mommy," or "Give me the ball," and the child does so. These conversations continue for many months before the child actually starts to speak itself. Even though it can speak during this time, the child is taking in all of the language, the sounds, and also the patterns. Eventually, when it has decoded enough, the child reproduces the language quite spontaneously. And it really mirrors this effect in the language classroom. Aside from that, TPR is linked to the trace theory of memory in psychology, wherein it proposes that the more frequently a memory connection is made, the easier it is to recall it. For example, if a student is given the verbal command "stand up," enough times they will quickly learn what stand up means. This of course assumes that student eventually understands what stand up means. An assumption of comprehension is based on the comprehension approach. This approach states that people understand something before they can reproduce it verbally. Anyone who has ever seen a toddler can attest to this theory. A toddler can obey commands much earlier than they can speak. The next slide will talk about the definition of total physical response. Total physical response is a language learning method that makes use of body movements with the acquisition of the new language. So basically, in this method, we learn the language through action. In TPR, instructors give commands to students in the target language, and students respond with whole body action. In the classroom, the teacher plays the role of a parent. She starts by saying the word "jump," or a phrase "look at the board," and demonstrating an action. The teacher then says the command and the students all do the action. After repeating a few times, it is possible to extend this by asking the students to repeat the word as they do the action. When they feel confident with a word or phrase, you can then ask the students to direct each other or the whole class. And also, TPR is popular with beginners and the young learners. Moving on to the theory of learning. Asher gave three learning hypotheses: the bioprogram, brain lateralization, and reduction of stress. The bioprogram states that first and second language learning are parallel process developed in three stages, which are listening competence, listening comprehension, and natural speech. Initially, children develop listening competence by responding physically to spoken language, such as parental commands, which combines both verbal and physical aspects of communication. This method emphasizes the importance of listening comprehension before speaking, allowing for internalization and code breaking of the language without the pressure to speak. Next is brain lateralization. Different learning functions according to the left and right brain hemispheres. Asher's approach leveraged right hemisphere activities like physical movement, acting, and gesturing, which facilitate language acquisition through movement rather than rote memorization of vocabulary and grammar. This right brain learning is stress-free and mirrors how children learn their first language. It focuses on meaning through movement. The left hemisphere responsible for speaking passively observes and learns until the right hemisphere has fully internalized the new information. Once this happens, learners can begin to produce language naturally and spontaneously, making Asher's method an effective and relaxed approach to second language learning. And reduction of stress. You will all agree that the lower stress, the greater learning would it be. So if the environment is stress-free, there must have a higher percentage of learning. The next slides will talk about the characteristics of TPR. First, focusing on meaning and comprehension. TPR emphasizes understanding and interpreting the meaning of spoken language before responding verbally. This approach prioritizes comprehension. It allows our students to internalize language structures and vocabulary naturally. Second, great deal of listening and acting. Students spend significant time listening to the teacher's commands and physically acting them out. This active participation helps reinforce language learning through kinesthetic experiences. It makes it easier for our students to remember and understand. Third is verbal response is not necessary. In the initial stages, students are not required to speak. The focus is on building comprehension and confidence through listening and physical response. This reduces anxiety and pressure associated with speaking a new language prematurely. Fourth, humor is easy to introduce. In this kind of approach, it is interactive and dynamic nature, and it makes easy to incorporate humor. Engage to a fun activities that can make our students have the learning process which are enjoyable, which can enhance motivation and retention. Fifth, teachers always uses the third language. To maximize exposure, the teacher consistently uses the target language. This strategy helps students become accustomed to hearing and processing the new language in various contexts. Sixth, grammar is taught inductively. Instead of direct instruction, grammar is learned through exposure and the usage. Students pick up grammatical structures naturally as they respond to commands and interact in the target language. 7. Students should be more active and talkative. While verbal responses are not initially required, TPR encourages active participation. As students progress, they become more talkative and engage in a verbal communication, applying what they have learned through physical actions. 8. Learning language by body movements. Physical movements are an integral part of TPR. By associating language with action, students create strong mental connections between words and their meanings. And it aids to a long memory and comprehension. And last, reading and writing is taught after grammar and vocabulary. TPR focuses first on oral proficiency, delaying reading and writing. Instruction until students have solid grasp of grammar and vocabulary. This sequence ensures that students are more prepared and confident when they start to read and write in the new language. Moving on to the role of learner and teacher. In the context of total physical response, the role of teacher is important. It involves several key responsibilities. First, active and direct role. The teacher is actively engaged in the learning process. He or she will lead the students through each lesson. This active involvement helps maintain student interest and motivation. Next, decides what to teach. The teacher carefully selects the language elements to be taught. ensuring they are appropriate for the student's proficiency level and learning goals. These includes choosing relevant vocabulary, commands, and activities that align with the student's needs and curriculum objectives. Aside from that, the teacher demonstrates new language concepts and actions, providing a clear and accurate model for students to follow. This modeling is essential in TPR as students learn through imitation and physical response to the teacher's commands. Third, provides opportunities for learning. The teacher creates variety of activities and exercises that encourage students to practice and internalize the language. This includes interactive games, role-playing, and other kinesthetic activities that make learning dynamic and engaging. On the other side, the role of the learner. In TPR, learners primarily engage as active listeners and performers. They attentively listen to the teacher's commands and respond with corresponding physical actions. This dual role helps in reinforcing language comprehension through kinesthetic learning that will make the language acquisition process more effective and memorable. The second one listens attentively and responds physically to command. The learner's main task is to focus on understanding the spoken language and execute the physical commands given by the teacher. This active listening and immediate physical response help in creating strong cognitive links between language and its meaning. It facilitates better retention and comprehension. And the last one is monitors and evaluate his or her own progress. TPR encourages our learners to be aware of their own learning journey. So by constantly engaging in listening and responding, learners can self-assess their understanding and performance. This self-monitoring helps them identify areas where they need improvement and adjust their learning strategies accordingly. So overall, the role of the teacher and the role of the learner must be needed. Next slides will explore some of the learning activities under TPR. In TPR, we can use objects. We can have role plays and slide presentations. We can have storytelling, games, and other imperative exercises. Every method has advantages and disadvantages, but let's focus first on the advantages of TPR method. The first strength of TPR is good tool for building vocabulary. It is effective in helping students acquire and remember new vocabulary because it pairs words with physical actions, making the learning process more engaging and memorable. For example, if a teacher says jump and demonstrate jumping, students then jump while saying the word. This physical association helps reinforce the meaning and recall of the word jump. Next, does not require a great deal of preparation. TPR activities are straightforward and can be implemented with minimal preparation. The teachers do not need extensive materials or complex lesson plans. A teacher can create simple lessons using common classroom objects. For instance, the teacher says, pick up the pen and demonstrate the action. Students follow along, requiring only the objects already available in the classroom. Third, help students immediately understand the target language. By using physical actions to demonstrate meaning, TPR allows students to grasp the language directly without needing translations. This direct comprehension is especially helpful for beginners. Example, when teaching the word sit, the teacher says, sit down while sitting. Students understand the command through the action and follow it immediately, comprehending the meaning. The fourth one is help learners achieve fluency faster in learning the language. TPR's focus on listening and responding to commands help build a solid foundation of understanding and using the language in context. It accelerates the path to fluency. So, over the time, students are given more complex instructions such as walk to the door, open it, and to your friend. This sequence of actions helps students practice and internalize longer sentence and varied vocabulary promoting fluency. Next, creates positive thinking. Some of the activities are often fun and interactive. It fosters a positive and enjoyable learning environment. This positivity can boost students' motivation and confidence in learning the language. For example, we incorporate games like Simon Says with TPR commands can create a lively and positive atmosphere, and it will encourage students to participate enthusiastically. And last, stress-free. TPR reduces the pressure on students to speak immediately. It focuses first on comprehension and physical response. This approach makes learning more relaxed and less intimidating. So, example, instead of being asked to speak or write immediately, our students might follow commands like touch your nose or point to the window without worrying about making mistakes. And it allows them to learn at their own pace in a supportive environment. Moving on to the disadvantages of TPR method. The first weakness of TPR is it is challenging for shy students. In TPR, it requires active physical participation, which might be intimidating for our shy or introvert students. They may feel self-conscious performing actions in front of their peers. Say, for example, there is an instance that a shy student may hesitate to stand up and act out the command, feeling embarrassed or anxious about being the center of attention. The next one is it is not suited to all levels. It's particularly effective for beginners who need to build basic vocabulary and listening comprehension. However, it may not be as effective for advanced learners who require more complex language structures and also abstract concepts. Say, for example, our advanced students studying academic language or some terminology might find TPR insufficient for their needs. Like, if we commands analyze the economic impact of globalization are difficult to represent through physical actions. Next, students are not generally given the opportunity to express their own thoughts. TPR focuses on responding to commands rather than generating spontaneous speech. So it limits opportunities for students to practice expressing their own ideas and thoughts. In a TPR lesson, students might follow commands like touch the door, raise your hand, but they do not get to share personal opinions or narrate stories, which are crucial for developing conversational skills. Next, certain target language may not be suited to this method. So, doing the abstract concepts, having the complex grammar, and advanced vocabulary can be difficult to teach through TPR. So, as they may not lend themselves well to physical actions. For example, when we are teaching concepts like freedom, justice, happiness, through TPR, it is challenging because these abstract ideas cannot be easily demonstrated through simple physical actions. And last one, it is not a very creative method. TPR primarily involves following commands and performing predefined actions, which can limit opportunities for creativity and critical thinking. So in a lesson where students repeatedly follow commands like sit down, stand up, and jump, lacks creative engagement, as students are not required to use their imagination or problem-solving skills. And that is all about the disadvantages of TPR. And that concludes my report. Thank you and God bless.
Guys, sobrang hirap naman mag-English. I just can't intindi the meaning of these words.
Ay, wow, kunyo!
Oo nga eh. Guys, nandiyan na naman si Sir. For the pronounce na naman tayo ng mga words that I can't understand.
I agree. Morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Morning po, sir.
Okay, good morning.
Morning po,
good
sir.
morning. Okay, so for today, we shall read a few sentences to help you become familiarized with English. Okay, so repeat after me. Okay, so number one, I threw a powerful punch. I threw a powerful punch. He was getting annoying, so I slapped his hand. He was getting annoying, so I slapped his hand. Ano sabihin mo, slap? I kicked the ball down the field. I kicked the ball down the field. The rope almost choked her to death. The rope almost choked her to death.
Ayun, namumunga yung mata.
I hit him as hard as I could. I hit him as hard as I could. I showed the crowd to get a better view. I showed
Uy, okay ka lang?
the crowd to get a better view. I smacked him after he said something bad. I smacked him after
Uy, masakit yata ang ngipin ito.
he said something
Pre, okay ka lang?
bad. Okay, everyone understand what we have read?
Yes, sir! Uy, gising, gising!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes po, sir. Okay, class dismissed.
I think my strategy today was not effective. I think I need a new plan. Oh, I know what to do. Hoy, pre, may assignment ka na? Wala pa nga eh. Ikaw ba?
Yes. English na naman. Sobrang antok naman mag-read ng sentences.
Konyo talaga.
I can't understand it talaga. Oo nga eh. The class is so boring. Ay, saya naman si sir. Magpaparead na naman.
Morning po, sir.
Morning, sir. Morning po, sir. Okay,
Sir, good morning po, sir.
Okay, so before we start, before we read the following sentences, please stand up and repeat the sentences and actions after me. Okay, is that clear?
Uy, parang bago to ah.
Ay, parang bagong attack ni Sir ngayon ah.
Oo nga eh.
I threw a powerful punch. I threw a powerful punch.
Ay, sinutok. Grabe ka naman.
He was getting annoying, so I slapped his hand. He was getting annoyed, so I slapped his hand.
Ay, sinampal naman. Loko ka.
Literal, iba nga ang attack. I kicked the ball down the field. I kicked the ball, hit him as hard as I could.
Okay ka lang, pre.
I smacked him after he said something bad. I smacked him
Bakit mo naman siya
after
binubugbog?
he said something bad. The rope
Sir, tama na, sir.
almost
Sir, tama
choked
na.
her to death. The rope almost
Ay,
choked
nako.
her to death.
Naku, ito na. Uy, tigilan mo yan, pre. Pakawalan mo siya. Pakawalan mo na yan, pre. Tama na.
Okay, so did everyone understand what we have read? Yes, sir. I totally understand every sentence I have read. How about you, bro?
Ay, deform na mukha ni pre. Oh. Pre, okay ka lang.
Now let us discuss the silent way method in teaching. A Europe educator, Caleb Gategno, introduced the silent way method of language teaching, which originated in the early 1970s. He is well known for the use of colored sticks called cusineiros and for his approach to the teaching of initial reading in which sounds are taught by colors. Now let us proceed with the basic premises for silent way. First, the method is based on the premise that teacher should be silent as much as possible and the learner should be encouraged to produce language as much as possible. This means that all the discussion will be done by the learners and teacher will only guide them and provide the necessary informations we needed. The silent way assures that learners work with resources and nothing else as they are solely responsible for what they learn. Teaching should be subordinated to learning. Silence makes students to concentrate on what is to be learned. Within this, we can assume that silence gives a greater contribution on how the students are learning. With the use of the resources and the guidance of the teacher, they are able to be responsible on what they are doing. When it comes to learning hypotheses, these are the following. First, learning is facilitated if the learner discovers or creates rather than remembers and repeats what is to be learned. Learning is facilitated by accompanying physical objects. Learning is facilitated by problem solving involving the material to be learned. Now let us proceed with the theory of learning. First, a successful learning involves commitment of the self to language acquisition through the use of silent awareness and then active trial. Silent way learners acquire inner criteria, which basically means that oneself have a standard on how he or she going to achieve that goal or that learning. The silent way student is expected to become independent and autonomous and responsible. So within these theories, we have the two. First, the position of right of self-government, and the second one is freedom of action. Given with those ideas, it comes with this cycle. So first, they become the independent learners, and when they are independent learners, that basically means that they have to provide their own resources in order to acquire that knowledge. Next is becoming an autonomous learners, in which the learners choose proper expression in a given set of circumstances and situations. When it comes to silent way method, we have different pedagogical materials that are both effective and fun to use. Now let us discuss the following examples. First, we have the word chart. As it was said, these wall charts on which the words are written with the same color code as the rectangle chart. These charts display the structural vocabulary of the language, about 500 words. The color code means that languages as different as Japanese and Russian, which use signs and familiar to the learner, can be immediately read and pronounced correctly. So as you can see in the given example, that is a word chart. Number 2 is the Fidel. These show all the possible spellings for each phoneme and which also use the same color code as the rectangle chart. The Fidel is particularly useful for languages such as English and French which have complex and irregular spelling. So I can show you the example of the Fidel. The third one is the questionnaire rod. These are used to create clear and visible situations that enable students to understand how a given concept is expressed in language. As you can see in the given picture, that is an example of a questionnaire rod. The pointer. So it functions in the following ways. First, the teacher or the learner can show a word or a sentence while maintaining the essential characteristics of language. The pointer creates the dynamic of the language by introducing the element of time in relation to different charge which are in themselves static. The use of the pointer is one of the ways in which the teacher calls on the learners to use their mental powers. Finally, we have the sound or the color rectangle chart. This chart is made up of different colored rectangles. Each color represents a phoneme of the language, enabling learners to work on fine distinctions in the phonetics and prosody of the language, both on the level of production and of listening and recognition. Now let us proceed with the objectives of learning. So talking about the silent way, it comes with the following objectives. First, the general goal set for language learning is near native fluency in the target language, and correct pronunciation and mastery of the prosodic elements of the target language are emphasized. Next, the teacher should give them only what they absolutely need to promote their learning. And then finally, they become independent by relying on themselves. So, most of the percent is all about the learner's ability to comprehend, to analyze, and to do on their own. When it comes with the syllabus, a basically structural syllabus with lessons planned around grammatical items and related vocabulary. In Thai, the following is a section of a Peace Corps Silent Way syllabus for the first 10 hours of instruction. It is used to teach American Peace Corps volunteers being trained to teach in Thailand. At least 15 minutes of every hour of instruction would be spent on pronunciation. A word that is italicized can be substituted by another word having the same function. So what are the types of learning and teaching activities in the silent way method? So we have the learner rules, the teacher rules, and the rule of instructional materials used in this method. When it comes to the learners, they are expected to develop independence, autonomy, and responsibility. The learners chooses proper expressions in a given set of circumstances and situations. The absence of correction and repeated modeling from the teacher requires the students to develop inner criteria and to correct themselves. When it comes to the teacher, they are the technician or an engineer who facilitates learning. They are also the one who is neutral observer, neither praise or nor criticize, merely looks for continued improvement. The teacher is silent. The teacher's presence in the classroom is limited to providing a model of language that the students are going to work on. Civic defined the silent way teacher's tasks as the following. First is to teach the presentation of an item once, typically using nonverbal clues to get across the meanings. The second one is to test, elicitation, and shaping of student. Production is done in as a silent way as possible. And then, to get out of the way, the teacher silently monitors learners' interaction with each other and may even leave the room while learners struggle with their new linguistic tools. These are the following conclusions. First, the actual practices of the silent way are much less revolutionary than might be expected. Second, working from what is rather than traditional structure and lexical syllables, the method exemplifies many of the features that characterize more traditional methods such as situational language teaching and audiolingualism, with a strong focus on accurate repetition of sentences, modeled initially by the teacher and the movement of true guided elicitation exercises to freer communication. Thank you so much, and that is all for my report.
Ay, pasok na naman! Pre, masanay ka na ba?
I'm so excited to learn more about English today. Alam mo, sobrang effective ng strategy ni Sir kahapon. Di ba? Yeah.
Suntok-suntok mo yan kahapon.
Yan pala, sir. Morning po, sir.
Morning po, sir. Morning. Morning po, sir.
Okay, good morning, good morning. Okay, class. Today, I will teach you the pronunciation of different words in English. But don't repeat anything that I will say. Okay? Just listen
nice
carefully
one, sir.
and internalize. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Uy, nice. May kinik lang tayo today. Buti naman. Hindi pa talaga magaling pang ako.
Ikaw ba naman suntokin sa muka?
Okay, let's start. Big, each, back, away, near, mind, ask, when. Box, few, say,
Ay, para sa zombie.
old,
Pre, kakatakot
when,
mo ka. Oh.
hard again, most,
Uy,
kind,
isa pa to. Parang
done,
sinasabihan na to ah.
every,
Pre,
since,
pre, tingnan mo.
some, little, said, young, bad, better, good, best, worse.
Pre, pre. Pre, gising, gising, pre.
Okay, so did everyone understand what we have read? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, may ipis ka sa mukha. Sir, don't move.
Ay! Sir, may ibis ka. Oh. Sir, wag ka gagalaw, sir. Wag ka gagalaw, sir. Teka lang, wait lang, sir. Ay, sinuntok sa mukha na, sir.
Okay na, sir. Okay, class. Dismiss.
Parang nag-iba mo ka na, sir.
New day, new life. Buti na talaga na iligtas ko, sir, kahapon, no? Oo nga. Kaso, mukhang basag yata yung pangan ni sir, eh. Speaking of, sir, nandiyan na, sir. Good morning po, sir.
Morning po, sir.
Morning po,
Sir, morning po. Ay, ba't mukhang teletabi si sir? Nasa mukha ni sir. Parang may mali kay sir. Tingnan mo, nabigang sign si sir. Ano kaya ibig sabihin yan?
Ano daw sabi ni sir? Sabi ni sir, yesterday, his jaw was injured, which rendered him unable to speak today. Which is why we are the ones to read the words aloud. He says to read the words he points to. Gets?
Ay, wow, ang galing! Tama daw sabi ni sir.
Paano ko naiintindihan yun? Galing mo ah.
Galing, di ba?
Big. Each. Back. Away. Near. Mind. Ask. Went. Box. Few. Say. New. Old. When. Hard. Again. Most. Kind. Done. Every. Says. Some. Little. Young. Bad. Better. Good. Best. Worse.
Yun na naman si sir, para na baliw.
Yes, sir.
Sa patro,
Solid ng period natin today. Dami ko natutunan. Sir, high five.
ay, sinuntok na sir, with respect. Ay, ba't doing isda? Sinuntok ka lang, nagkamarang isda.